Protocol Hammer was unleashed with devastating precision. Across the human fleet, weapon systems that had been hidden behind false panels and disguised as cargo containers came online. The Karvak had expected primitive kinetic weapons. What they got was technology that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. The battleship Dokdo, under Captain Wujin's command, fired the first antimatter torpedo. The weapon streaked across space at near light speed, its containment field glowing, like a miniature star. When it struck the Karvak heavy cruiser Flesh Render, the explosion vaporized the entire ship and damaged 3 others nearby. "Direct hit," reported Chief Engineer Minjae from the weapons bay. "Antimatter containment field functioned perfectly." "Excellent," Wujin replied. "Target the next cruiser. Let's show them what human engineering can do." On the Bridge of Terror. Of the Void, Fleet Admiral Vorthak watched his fleet die. Ships that had conquered dozens of star systems were being destroyed by weapons he didn't understand. His tactical officers ran frantically between stations trying to comprehend what they were seeing. "Sir, the humans are using some kind of gravitational weapon," reported one officer. "The cruiser Dark Talon was crushed like an egg." "Impossible. Gravitational manipulation requires planet-sized generators." "Sir, sensors confirm it. The human ship Iron Thunder is creating artificial gravity wells." Vorthak turned to the main display, watching as the human battleship demonstrated the impossible. Gravitational pulse cannons created brief but incredibly powerful gravity fields that could compress matter to the density of neutron stars. When they struck Karvak vessels, the ships simply collapsed in on themselves. "What about their defenses?" Vorthak demanded. "Are our weapons having any effect?" "Minimal, sir. Their shields are adapting to our energy frequencies. Each time we hit them, their defenses get stronger." This was impossible. Adaptive shielding was theoretical technology that even the most advanced species hadn't mastered. Yet these humans, supposedly primitive mammals from a single star system, were using it in combat. Commander Jinho led a squadron of human destroyers through the chaos of battle. His ship, Fierce Wind, danced between Karvak formations while its weapons carved through enemy hulls. "Status on the rescue mission?" he asked his communications officer. "Marine teams have landed on Lumina Prime. They're fighting their way to the Villani shelter complexes." "Good. Keep them updated on our progress. The sooner we clear these Karvak ships, the sooner we can help the civilians." On the planet's surface, Colonel Taman led the first wave of Marines into the ruined capital city. The beautiful crystal spires lay shattered, their pieces glowing faintly in the dim light. Karvak ground forces had been systematically destroying everything they could find. "Squad leaders report," Taman ordered through his combat communicator. "Alpha Squad here," came the voice of Sergeant Kyung-min. "We've found a Karvak position, 3 blocks north. They're guarding what looks like a Villani shelter entrance." "Beta Squad checking in," added Sergeant Nayon. "We've located a group of Karvak soldiers setting charges on civilian buildings." "Understood. Alpha Squad, secure that shelter. Beta Squad, stop those demolitions. Remember, we're here to save lives, not take them unnecessarily. But if the Karvak want to fight, give them one they'll never forget." The human Marines moved through the city like ghosts. Their powered armor was designed for urban combat, with stealth systems that made them nearly invisible. The Karvak soldiers, used to fighting other energy-based species, had no idea how to detect them. Sergeant Kyungmin approached the Karvak position carefully. Through his helmet's display, he could see 12 enemy soldiers armed with plasma rifles. They were tall, gray-skinned aliens with natural armor plating and multiple arms, but size wasn't everything. "Alpha Squad on my mark," he whispered into his communicator. 3, 2, 1, mark." The human Marines struck simultaneously. Kinetic rifles fired armor-piercing rounds that punched through Karvak natural armor, like paper. Plasma grenades created brief but intense explosions that disabled enemy weapons. Within 30 seconds, the position was secure. "Shelter entrance clear," Kyung-min reported. "Beginning descent to find survivors." Meanwhile, in space, the battle was reaching its climax. The human fleet had broken the Karvak formation into scattered groups, each fighting desperately for survival. Captain Yuna's stealth frigate had successfully sabotaged the enemy communication network, leaving Karvak commanders unable to coordinate their defense. "Sir," her tactical officer reported, "we've identified the enemy flagship, Terror of the Void, approximately 4 kilometers from our current position." "Perfect. Prepare the plasma lance array." "Ma'am, the plasma lance is still experimental. We've never used it in actual combat. Then today we test it. Lock onto their primary reactor." The Ghost of Inchin moved silently through the battle, its stealth systems hiding it from Karvak. Sensors. When it reached the optimal firing position, Yuna gave the order, "Fire." The plasma lance was humanity's newest weapon, a focused beam of matter heated to temperatures found only in stellar cores. It struck Terror of the Void's hull and cut through the massive ship like a sword through paper. On the Karvak flagship's bridge, alarms blared as systems failed throughout the ship. Fleet Admiral Vorthak watched his tactical displays go dark one by one. "Sir, we've lost main power," reported his engineering officer. "The humans have somehow cut through our primary reactor containment. Impossible, our armor is 3 meters thick. Sir, whatever they used went straight through. We're losing atmosphere on 17 decks." Vorthak looked at the main view screen, watching as his fleet was methodically destroyed. The humans fought with a precision and ferocity he had never encountered. They didn't just defeat enemies, they crushed them completely. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet commander." "Put it through." Admiral Minsu appeared on the screen. Behind him, Vorthak could see the calm efficiency of the human bridge crew. No panic, no fear, just professional competence. "Admiral Vorthak, your flagship is crippled and your fleet is destroyed. Surrender now, and we'll allow your surviving crews to evacuate to life pods. Why do you offer mercy to your enemies?" "Because we're not like you. We don't kill helpless opponents." Vorthak felt something he had never experienced before. Shame. These humans, whom he had dismissed as primitive mammals, were not only superior warriors but also more honorable than his own people. "You have won this battle," he admitted. "But the Karvak Empire will not forget this defeat. We will return, with more ships." Minsu's expression hardened. "Admiral, let me make something very clear. We have recordings of your bombardment of civilian targets. We have evidence of your war crimes. If any Karvak ship approaches Volani space again, we will hunt down every last one of your kind." "You threaten the entire Karvak Empire?" "I'm not threatening. I'm promising. Humanity protects its friends. That protection now extends to every peaceful species in this galaxy. Any race that commits genocide, enslaves civilians, or targets the innocent will answer to us." On the planet's surface, Dr. Yuna worked frantically in her field hospital. Wounded Volani were being brought in by the dozens, their crystal-like bodies damaged by plasma burns and structural collapse. "Doctor," called Nurse Sujin, "we have a group of Volani children in critical condition. Prepare the bio-regeneration chambers," Yunha ordered, "and get me 20 units of synthetic crystal matrix. These children's bodies need time to rebuild. They're damaged sections." As she worked to save lives, Yuna could hear the sounds of battle ending above. The human fleet had achieved total victory in less than 4 hours. The Karvak Third Fleet, which had terrorized dozens of star systems, was now scattered wreckage floating in space. Colonel Taman's voice came through the medical team's communicators. "Dr. Yunha, we've secured all major shelter complexes. Casualties are heavy, but we estimate over 2 million Volani survivors." "Understood, Colonel. My teams are ready to treat them." In space, the last Karvak ships were fleeing the system. Those that couldn't escape had surrendered, their crews evacuating to human rescue vessels. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Admiral Hyan stood on his bridge, watching as human ships moved to assist the survivors. Medical vessels headed for the planet while engineering ships began clearing orbital debris. "Sir," reported Commander Jiwan, "final casualty report from the fleet." "Go ahead." 412 ships lost, 53,000 casualties. The Karvak lost over 1,500 vessels. Hyan nodded grimly. The price had been high, but the mission was complete. The Volani were safe, and the galaxy had learned that humanity meant what it said about protecting the innocent. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. Fleet Admiral Vorthak stood on the command deck of his flagship, Terror of the Void, watching the destruction of Lumina Prime through the main view screen. The beautiful crystal cities of the Volani were burning. Their delicate spires, which had once reached toward the stars like frozen music, now crumbled under the constant bombardment of Karvak plasma cannons. "Status report," Vorthak demanded. His voice was harsh and grating like metal scraping against stone. 60% of major population centers destroyed, reported his tactical officer. Remaining Volani forces have retreated to underground shelters. Surface resistance is minimal. Vorthak nodded with satisfaction. The Volani had been easy targets, just as expected. Their peaceful nature made them weak. Their advanced technology meant nothing without the will to use it for war. "Sir," another officer spoke up. "Long-range sensors are detecting a large fleet approaching the system. The humans?" "Yes, sir. 5,000 ships minimum." Vorthak laughed. The sound was like breaking glass. 5,000? These mammals think they can impress us with numbers? He moved to the tactical display, studying the approaching human fleet. The ships were smaller than Karvak vessels, built for speed rather than massive firepower. Their technology appeared primitive: chemical propulsion, kinetic weapons, simple energy shields. "What is our intelligence on human combat capabilities?" Vorthak asked. "Limited, sir. They have been space-capable for only 2 centuries. Their longest military conflict lasted 4 years and involved only ships within their own system. They have no experience with large-scale interstellar warfare. And their weapons? Primitive kinetic systems, sir. They fire solid projectiles instead of energy beams. Their missiles use chemical explosives. Our energy shields should stop everything they can throw at us." Vorthak studied the tactical display more carefully. The human formation was strange, too spread out, with no clear command structure. Their ships moved in small groups instead of the tight formations that provided mutual protection. "They fight like children playing war games," he said dismissively. "How many ships do we have in fighting condition?" 2,100 vessels, sir. 12 dreadnoughts, 47 heavy cruisers, and over 1,500 support ships. "More than enough. Signal the fleet. Prepare for combat. We will lie. Destroy these humans quickly, then return to finishing the Volani." The Karvak fleet began moving into attack formation. Their massive ships, some over 3 kilometers long, arranged themselves in precise geometric patterns. Each vessel was a work of dark art, covered in spikes and weapon ports that gave them the appearance of metal predators. On the bridge of Terror of the Void, Communications Officer Nex monitored enemy transmissions. "Sir, the humans are trying to contact us. Put it through. Let's hear what these mammals have to say." The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of a human ship. A middle-aged human in a blue uniform looked directly at Vorthak. His expression was calm, but his eyes were filled with anger. "Karvak Fleet, this is Fleet Admiral Minsu of the Human Defense Force. You have committed acts of genocide against the Volani people. Withdraw from this system immediately or face the consequences." Vorthak moved closer to the screen, letting the human see his full height. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, with gray skin covered in natural armor plating. His forearms ended in claws that could tear through metal. "Human, I am Fleet Admiral Vorthak. You speak of consequences? Look around you. We have 2,000 ships. We control this system. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Leave now, or we will add your ships to the wreckage already floating in space." The human admiral smiled, and something in that expression made Vorthak feel uncomfortable. "Admiral Vorthak, you've made one critical mistake." "And what is that, mammal?" "You hurt our friends." The transmission ended. Vorthak stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his officers. "Begin the attack. Target their largest ships first. Show them the price of challenging the Karvak Empire." The battle began with a massive exchange of long-range fire. Karvak plasma cannons, each one capable of melting through a kilometer of solid rock, sent brilliant beams of energy across space toward the human fleet. But something was wrong. The human ships moved differently than expected. Instead of maintaining formation and trading long-range shots, they accelerated directly toward the Karvak fleet at incredible speed. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "the human ships are closing distance rapidly. Their acceleration rates are much higher than our intelligence suggested." "Impossible. No ship that size can maintain such acceleration without crushing its crew." "Sir, they're not slowing down. Collision course with our outer picket line." Vorthak watched in disbelief as human ships streaked through space at speeds that should have been impossible. Their formations spread out like a deadly flower, each group targeting a different section of the Karvak fleet. The first human ships reached weapons range, and Vorthak saw something that made his blood freeze. The humans weren't using energy weapons. Instead, they fired solid projectiles. But these weren't the primitive kinetic weapons his intelligence had described. The human railguns fired metal slugs at 15% of light speed. When they hit Karvak ships, they didn't just penetrate the armor. They punched completely through the vessels, creating massive explosions as the kinetic energy was released. "Shields!" Vorthak roared. "Sir, our energy shields can't stop solid projectiles moving at those speeds." "Then activate point defense." The Karvak ships began firing their defensive weapons designed to stop incoming missiles and energy attacks. But the human projectiles were too fast and too small. Most of them passed through the defensive fire without being touched. On the human side, Captain Shungyun led a squadron of destroyers in a direct assault on the Karvak center formation. His ships moved like dancers, weaving between enemy fire while their weapons carved through Karvak hulls. "Target their command ships," he ordered his tactical officer Nari. "Take out their coordination capability." Nari's fingers flew over her controls, directing the squadron's fire with surgical precision. Human targeting computers designed for hunting small, fast targets locked onto Karvak command bridges and communication arrays. "Direct hit on enemy cruiser Bone Crusher," she reported. "Their bridge is gone." "Excellent. Next target." Meanwhile, the stealth frigate Ghost of Inshan had penetrated deep into Karvak space. Captain Yuna watched her sensors as Karvak ships struggled to respond to the human attack. "Their formation is breaking apart," she observed. "They're not used to enemies that get this close." "Should we begin our sabotage run?" asked her tactical officer. "Not yet. Wait until they're completely confused, then hit their flagship's communication array." Back on Terror of the Void, Vorthak was experiencing something he had never felt before: panic. His massive fleet was being torn apart by ships half their size. Human vessels darted between his formations like deadly insects, striking with precision and vanishing before his gunners could respond. "Sir, we've lost 43 ships in the first 10 minutes, reported his tactical officer. "The humans are using some kind of advanced targeting system. They're hitting our weak points with every shot." "Return fire. All ships, concentrate your fire." "Sir, they're too fast. Our gunners can't track them." Vorthak watched as another of his heavy cruisers exploded under human fire. The humans weren't just defeating his fleet, they were making it look easy. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human flagship. Put it through." Admiral Minsu appeared on the screen again. Behind him, Vorthak could see calm, efficient human officers working at their stations. "Admiral Vorthak, this is your final warning. Surrender now, and your surviving crews will be treated according to galactic law." "Never. We are Karvak. We do not surrender to inferior species." Minsu's expression didn't change. "Then you've chosen poorly. All ships, implement Protocol Hammer." The transmission ended. Vorthak turned to his tactical officer. "What is Protocol Hammer?" The officer's face was pale with fear. "I don't know, sir, but sensors are detecting massive energy buildup in the human fleet. Across the human formation, ships began revealing weapons that had been hidden until now. Antimatter torpedoes that could crack planets. Gravitational pulse cannons that could crush ships like tin cans. Plasma lance arrays that burned hotter than the cores of stars." Vorthak realized too late that his intelligence had been completely wrong. These weren't primitive humans playing at war. These were apex predators from a death world, and they had been holding back. The real battle was about to begin. The space around Rendezvous Point Tango 7 filled with ships faster than anyone had thought possible. Admiral Hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display as more vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Every few minutes. "Status report," he ordered. 4,200 vessels present and accounted for, sir," reported Commander Jiwon, his tactical officer. She was young but brilliant, one of the best strategic minds in the human fleet. "Another 800 are still en route." Hyun nodded. "And our intelligence on the Karvak forces?" "Not good, sir." Jiwon brought up a holographic display showing the Lumina system. "The Karvak Third Fleet has completely surrounded the planet. 2,000 combat ships, including their flagship dreadnought Terror of the Void. They've been bombarding civilian targets for 6 days. Casualties? Unknown, sir. All communications with the surface have been cut off. But based on the bombardment pattern..." Jiwon paused. "They're not trying to capture territory, they're trying to kill everyone." Hyun felt anger burning in his chest. The Karvak were not warriors. They were murderers. "What about their defenses?" "Standard Karvak formation, sir. Heavy battleships in the outer ring, cruisers and destroyers protecting the bombardment vessels. Their ships are bigger than ours. But their weapons are energy-based, long-range but slow-firing." "Good. And their experience fighting humans?" "None, sir. As far as we know, they've never faced kinetic weapons or our tactical doctrines." Hyun smiled grimly. The Karvak were about to get a very unpleasant surprise. A new voice came from the communications console. "Sir, incoming transmission from Fleet Admiral Minsu." The holographic display flickered, showing the command bridge of the massive dreadnought Iron Will. Fleet Admiral Minsu sat in the captain's chair, surrounded by displays showing the growing human fleet. "Admiral Hyun," Minsu began. "Beautiful sight, isn't it?" Hyun looked at the tactical display showing thousands of human ships. "Yes, sir. I've never seen anything like it. Neither has the galaxy. Do you know what they're calling us on the alien news networks?" "No, sir. The Death Fleet. They say no species has ever assembled so many warships so quickly. The Council is demanding we turn back. The Karvak are threatening to declare war on all human colonies if we interfere. And our response, sir?" Minsu's expression hardened. "Our response is that we don't negotiate with murderers. The Villani called for help. We're going to give it to them." The transmission ended, and Hyun turned back to his tactical display. The sheer size of the human fleet was impressive, but he knew size wasn't everything. The Karvak had been fighting wars for centuries. They had experienced crews and proven tactics. "Sir," Lieutenant Bora called from her communication station, "we're receiving a message from the Karvak fleet." "Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled with static. Then a harsh alien voice filled the air. The universal translator struggled with the aggressive tone. "Human fleet. This is Fleet Admiral Vorthak of the Karvak Third Fleet. You are trespassing in a military operation zone. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Hyun looked around his bridge. His officers were all watching him, waiting for his response. "Lieutenant Bora, open a channel to the entire fleet. All frequencies." "Channel open, sir." Hyun took a deep breath. "Karvak Fleet, this is Admiral Hyun of the Human Defense Force. You have attacked our friends and allies. You have targeted civilians. You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw from the Lumina system. If you refuse, we will make you leave. You dare threaten us, mammal. We have 2,000 ships. You have gathered many vessels, but quantity cannot overcome quality. We have fought 100 wars across 50 systems. What have you done except play in your small corner of space?" Hyun smiled. "We've been waiting for someone to give us a reason to stop playing." The transmission cut off abruptly. Around the human fleet, ships began moving into attack formations. On the bridge of the carrier Busan Thunder, Colonel Taman was briefing his Marine commanders. The holographic display showed detailed plans of Karvak ships. "Listen carefully," Taman said. "Karvak vessels are built for long-range combat. Their internal layouts favor wide corridors and large spaces. They're not designed for close-quarters fighting." "What about their boarding defenses?" asked Major Jinwoo. "Limited. They rely on energy barriers and automated systems. They've never faced human boarding tactics. Taman switched the display to show human assault equipment. We'll use shaped charges to breach their hulls, then advance in small teams. Remember, they're bigger than us, but they're also slower. Use that advantage. Meanwhile, on the stealth frigate Ghost of Incheon, Captain Yuna was reviewing intelligence reports with her crew. Her ship was one of dozens assigned to reconnaissance and sabotage missions. The Karvak command structure is very rigid, she explained to her officers. They don't adapt well to unexpected situations. If we can disrupt their communications at the right moment, their formations will fall apart. What about their sensors? Asked her tactical officer. Designed to detect energy signatures and large metal objects. Our stealth technology should keep us invisible until we're close enough to strike. Across the human fleet, similar briefings were taking place. Engineers like Chief Wu Jin were making final preparations to weapon systems that the Karvak had never encountered. Kinetic weapons that fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Missile systems that could adapt their attack patterns in real time. Shield generators that could absorb energy attacks and convert them into additional power. Dr. Yunha, the fleet's chief medical officer, was preparing her hospital ships for the wounded. She had studied Villani biology for years and knew exactly what kind of injuries the Karvak bombardment would cause. Set up triage centers on all medical vessels, she ordered her staff. Villani physiology is different from human. Their crystal-based biology means they suffer different types of trauma. We need to be ready for massive casualty numbers. As the human fleet continued to grow, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. The alien news networks were broadcasting continuous coverage of the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Some species called for peace negotiations. Others warned that humanity was making a terrible mistake. The Karvak Empire sent official protests to every major government, demanding they force the humans to withdraw. Most governments ignored the protests. A few openly declared their support for the human mission. On the bridge of the Iron Will, Fleet Admiral Minsu reviewed the final battle plans with his senior staff. The holographic display showed the Lumina system and the positions of all Karvak forces. Phase 1, Minsu explained. Fast attack craft will engage their outer perimeter, draw their heavy ships out of position. Phase 2, continued Admiral Hyan via communication link. Main battle line advances, focus fire on their command vessels. Phase 3, added Colonel Taman. Marine assault teams board disabled Karvak ships, capture their commanders and rescue any Villani prisoners. The plan was simple but effective. The humans would use their superior speed and coordination to break apart the Karvak formation, then destroy them piece by piece. As the final ships arrived at the rendezvous point, the human fleet numbered over 5,000 vessels. It was the largest single military force ever assembled by any species. Every ship was crewed by volunteers who believed in the mission. Save the Villani, no matter the cost. Admiral Hyan looked at the final tactical display. In just a few hours, they would jump to the Lumina system and face the Karvak Third Fleet in battle. Many human ships would be lost. Many good people would die. But the Villani would be saved. And the galaxy would learn that humanity protected its friends. All ships, Hyan announced over the fleet communication network. Prepare for jump to Lumina system. It's time to show the Karvak what happens when they threaten our friends. The emergency signal came through the Deep Space Communications Array at exactly 14:37 Galactic Standard Time. The message was weak, broken by interference and distance, but the fear in the alien voice was clear to everyone who heard it. This is Villani Homeworld Lumina Prime. Under attack. Karvak forces, please help us. Admiral Hyan sat in his command chair aboard the human battleship Defiance, listening to the recording for the 5th time. His dark eyes were fixed on the holographic display showing the outer rim systems. The Villani homeworld was marked with a blinking red warning symbol. How long since we lost contact? Hyan asked his communications officer. 12 hours, sir, replied Lieutenant Bora. Her fingers moved quickly over her control panel. We've tried every frequency. Nothing but static. Hyan stood up and walked to the main display. The Villani were humanity's first alien friends. 50 years ago, When human ships first reached beyond the solar system, the Villani had welcomed them with open arms. They shared their energy technology freely, helping humanity build faster ships and better weapons. They asked for nothing in return except friendship. Now they were dying. "Sir, incoming transmission from Galactic Council headquarters," Bora announced. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the massive form of Council Speaker Vrex. The alien looked like a giant turtle with 6 arms and glowing yellow eyes. Hyun had never liked him. "Admiral Hyun," Vrex began in his slow, deep voice. "You have heard the Villani distress call." "I have," Hyun replied. "When do we move to help them?" Vrex's eyes dimmed slightly. "The Council is considering options. The Karvak Empire is very powerful. Any response must be carefully planned." "Carefully planned?" Hyun's voice got louder. "The Villani are being slaughtered while you sit in meetings. Admiral, you must understand. The Karvak have thousands of ships. They control 50 star systems. We cannot risk open war with them over one world." Hyun felt his hands close into fists. "One world? That's all the Villani mean to you? One world? Be realistic, Admiral. The Villani are a small species. Only 3 million of them exist. We cannot risk the lives of billions for so few." The transmission ended abruptly. Hyun stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Around him, the bridge crew waited in silence. They all knew what the Admiral was thinking. "Sir?" Captain Deho stepped forward. He commanded the heavy cruiser Soul's Pride, one of the most powerful ships in the human fleet. "What are your orders?" Hyun turned to face his officers. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command. Priority Alpha." Minutes later, the face of Fleet Admiral Minsu appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice was strong. "Hyun, I know why you're calling," Minsu said. "I've heard the recordings." "The Council won't act," Hyun reported. "They're afraid of the Karvak." "Of course they are. The Council has never faced a real threat. They talk and debate while good people die." Minsu paused. "How many ships do you have in your sector?" 47 combat vessels, sir. But sir, the Karvak have sent their entire Third Fleet to Lumina Prime. Intelligence reports over 2,000 ships." Minsu smiled grimly. "Then we'll need more than 47 ships, won't we?" "Sir." "Admiral Hyun, you are ordered to proceed to Rendezvous Point Tango 7. You will find additional units waiting for you there." "How many additional units, sir?" "All of them." Hyun felt his heart skip a beat. "Sir, did you say all of them?" "Every ship we can spare, Admiral. Every captain who believes in doing what's right. The Villani saved us once by sharing their technology. They helped us become a spacefaring people. Now it's our turn to save them." The screen flickered as the transmission was interrupted. When it cleared, Minsu's face was gone. In its place was an official Earth Command seal and a simple message. "Operation Guardian Angel. Authorized by Earth Defense Council. All fleet assets activated." Hyun turned to his bridge crew. They were all staring at him with wide eyes. "You heard the man," Hyun said. "All ships set course for Tango 7. Maximum speed." "Sir," Lieutenant Bora spoke up, "are we really going to fight the entire Karvak Third Fleet?" "We're going to do more than fight them," Hyun replied. "We're going to crush them." As the Defiance and her escort ships jumped to faster than light speed, similar scenes were playing out across human space. On Mars, the great shipyards were working around the clock to prepare every available vessel, from the colonies of Alpha Centauri to the frontier worlds near the galactic edge. Human captains received the same message. The Villani need help, and humanity answers the call. Captain Wu Jin received the alert while his battleship Docto was patrolling the outer colonies. He read the message twice, then called his crew to battle stations. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We have new orders. We're going to war." On the bridge, his tactical officer looked concerned. "Sir, the Karvak have numerical superiority. This could be a suicide mission." Wu Jin looked at the young officer and smiled. "Son, let me tell you something about humans. We don't care about numbers. We care about what's right. and saving our friends is right. Meanwhile, at the military academy on Luna, Colonel Taman was preparing his Marine units for immediate deployment. His soldiers were loading assault shuttles, with enough firepower to level a small city. "Listen up," Taman shouted to his troops. "The Volani are in trouble. The same aliens who helped us build our first star drives are being murdered by Karvak scum. We're going to save them, and we're going to make the Karvak regret ever touching our friends." The Marines cheered. They had trained for years for a moment like this. Now they would finally get to show what human soldiers could do. Across the galaxy, other species watched in amazement as humanity mobilized. Never before had any race assembled such a massive fleet so quickly. The Galactic Council sent urgent messages asking Earth to reconsider, warning of the consequences of war with the Karvak Empire. The human response was simple: "We do not abandon our friends." As Admiral Hyon's task force approached Rendezvous Point Tango 7, he could hardly believe what he saw on his sensors. Hundreds of ships were already waiting: battleships, cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and support vessels. More were arriving, every minute. "My God," whispered Captain Deho. "It's the entire fleet." "Not the entire fleet," Hyun corrected him. "It's every ship that could be spared. Earth still needs defenders, but this is more than enough." The largest fleet in human history was assembling, united by a single purpose: save the Volani. The Karvak had made a fatal mistake. They had threatened humanity's friends, and now they would learn what that meant. As Hyun watched more ships arrive, he thought about the first time he had met a Volani. They were such gentle creatures, tall and thin, with crystal-like skin that glowed softly in the dark. They spoke in musical voices and lived in harmony with their world. They had never hurt anyone. Soon, the Karvak would discover what happened when someone hurt humanity's friends. The Deathworlders were coming, and they were bringing the largest armada the galaxy had ever seen. The silence after battle was always the hardest part. Admiral Hyun stood in the observation deck of his flagship, watching human rescue ships move through the debris field that had once been the mighty Karvak Third Fleet. Floating among the wreckage were escape pods carrying survivors, both Karvak prisoners and rescued Volani civilians. "Sir," Commander Jiwan approached with a datapad. "We're receiving reports from the surface teams." Hyun turned away from the viewport. "What's the situation down there?" "Colonel Taman's Marines have secured all major population centers. Dr. Yunha's medical teams are treating wounded civilians. But sir, we've found something else." "What?" Jiwan's expression was grim. "Prison camps. The Karvak were holding captured Volani for experiments." Hyun felt his blood turn cold. "How many?" "Approximately 50,000 Volani in various facilities across the planet. Most are in terrible condition." On the surface of Lumina Prime, Captain Jin Wan led a rescue team through the ruins of what had been a beautiful crystalline city. The Karvak had systematically destroyed everything they could find, leaving behind only broken spires and scattered debris. "Sir," Sergeant Minsuk called from ahead. "We've found another facility." Jin Wan moved forward to see what his sergeant had discovered. Hidden beneath the rubble of a collapsed building was a metal door marked with Karvak symbols. The universal translator in his helmet provided a rough translation. "Research facility, authorized personnel only." "Breaching charges," Jinwan ordered. The explosion tore through the reinforced door like paper. Inside, the human soldiers found a nightmare. Row after row of containment cells held Volani prisoners. The beautiful, crystalline beings were barely alive, their bodies dulled and cracked from abuse. "Medical team to my location immediately," Jinwan spoke into his communicator. "We need emergency treatment for approximately 200 Volani prisoners." In one of the cells, he found a young Volani female who was still conscious. Her crystal-like skin had lost most of its natural glow, and deep cracks ran along her arms and face. "Can you understand me?" Jinwan asked gently. The Volani looked up with eyes like dimmed stars. You are the humans?" "Yes. We're here to help you. The others said you would come. That humans never abandon their friends, I did not believe them." Why? Because no one has ever come to help us before. Dr. Yunha arrived within minutes, her medical team spreading throughout the facility. The conditions they found were worse than anything they had imagined. The Karvak had been conducting experiments on living Villani, trying to understand their crystal-based biology. Monsters, muttered medical technician Sunwoo as he examined one of the prisoners. They were trying to see how much pain the Villani could endure before their crystal matrix shattered. Focus on treatment, Yunha ordered, firmly. We can be angry later. Right now these people need our help. Meanwhile, in orbit, the captured Karvak officers were being interrogated aboard the human prison ship Justice. Commander Kyung-ho led the intelligence team responsible for gathering information about Karvak operations. According to their records, Kyung-ho reported to Admiral Hyun, this wasn't just a conquest. It was a systematic extermination program. They planned to kill every Villani on the planet. Why? The Villani's crystal technology. The Karvak wanted to harvest their bodies to create new weapons. Hyun felt sick. How many other species have they done this to? At least 12 that we know of. Complete genocides, Admiral. Entire civilizations wiped out for their technology or resources. The evidence was overwhelming. Data files recovered from Karvak ships showed decades of war crimes across dozens of star systems. Species reduced to slavery, others hunted to extinction. Entire worlds stripped of resources and left as barren rocks. On the bridge of the Iron Will, Fleet Admiral Min-soo reviewed the reports from across the human fleet. The victory had been complete, but the cost was becoming clear. Casualty report, he requested from his aide. 412 ships destroyed, 53,000 human casualties. But sir, we estimate we saved over 2 million Villani lives. Min-soo nodded. And our prisoners? Approximately 30,000 Karvak survivors in custody. Most are requesting asylum rather than return to their empire. Asylum? Yes, sir. It seems many Karvak soldiers were forced to participate in these operations. They're asking for protection from their own government. This was unexpected. Min-soo had assumed all Karvak were willing participants in the genocide. Learning that some opposed their own leadership changed things. On the planet's surface, Pilot Soyeon led her atmospheric fighters in search and rescue operations. Her squadron had been flying continuously for 18 hours, locating survivors in the ruins of Villani cities. Rescue 1 to base, she reported. We found another shelter complex. Approximately 500 Villani civilians, mostly children. Understood. Rescue 1. Medical teams are en route to your position. Soyeon looked down at the devastation below. Once, this had been a world of incredible beauty. The Villani had built their cities in harmony with nature, creating crystalline structures that glowed with inner light. Now most of it was ruins, but they were rebuilding already. Even as human teams worked to clear debris and treat the wounded, surviving Villani were beginning to repair their damaged homes. Their crystal-based technology allowed them to regrow structures from small fragments like plants sprouting from seeds. In the human medical ship, Mercy, Dr. Yunha worked around the clock treating Villani patients. Their physiology was complex, part biological, part crystalline mineral. Healing them required techniques that no human doctor had ever used before. Doctor? Nurse Yujin called from across the ward. The Villani healer Elder Shimmer wants to speak with you. Yunha looked up from her patient. Elder Shimmer was one of the few surviving Villani medical experts. Despite her own injuries, she had been helping human doctors understand Villani biology. Elder Shimmer, you should be resting. The tall, graceful alien moved closer. Her crystal-like skin still showed cracks from her ordeal, but her inner light was beginning to return. Dr. Yunha, I wanted to thank you, not just for saving our bodies, but for saving our hope. You don't need to thank us. We're friends. Yes, but you came when others would not. The Galactic Council knew what was happening to us. Other species heard our calls for help, but only humans answered. Yunha felt tears in her eyes. We'll always answer. That's what friends do. Back in space, the final phase of the rescue operation was beginning. Human engineering ships were working to restore Power to Lumina Prime's orbital stations. The Karvak had destroyed most of the planet's space-based infrastructure, but human technology was proving remarkably adaptable. Chief Engineer Wu Jin coordinated the repairs from the command vessel Forge of Hope. His teams were working with Volani engineers to rebuild the orbital platforms using a combination of human and Volani technology. The power grid should be restored within 48 hours, he reported to Admiral Hyan. The Volani are sharing their crystal matrix technology with us. Combined with our fusion reactors, we can rebuild their infrastructure better than before. Excellent. What about planetary defenses? That's going to take longer. We'll need to establish a permanent human presence here to protect against future Karvak attacks. Admiral Hyan nodded. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Intelligence reports suggested that the Karvak Empire was already assembling another fleet to retake Lumina Prime. Signal the fleet, Hyan ordered. We're not leaving until this system is secure. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, news of the Battle of Lumina Prime was spreading rapidly. The Galactic Council was in emergency session, debating how to respond to humanity's unprecedented military action. Some species praised the humans for their courage and moral conviction. Others worried about the implications of such devastating military power in the hands of a single species. But in the quiet corners of space, where peaceful species lived in fear of aggressive neighbors, the news brought something that hadn't existed for centuries: hope. The humans had proven that genocide would not be tolerated, that the strong could not prey upon the weak without consequence, that someone, somewhere, was willing to fight for justice. As the human fleet settled into orbit around Lumina Prime, Admiral Hyan received a message from Earth Command. The text was simple but profound. Well done, Admiral. The galaxy is watching. Show them what humanity stands for. Hyan looked out at the recovering planet below, where human and Volani teams worked together to rebuild what the Karvak had destroyed. The price of freedom was always high, but some things were worth any cost. The Volani were free, and the galaxy had learned that humanity kept its promises. 6 months after the Battle of Lumina Prime, the great chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the vast amphitheater, their voices creating a constant murmur of conversation in dozens of languages. At the center of the chamber stood a single podium, waiting for the human representative who had requested this emergency session. Ambassador Donghyuk walked slowly to the podium, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Behind him walked Elder Shimmer and 2 other Volani survivors, their crystal-like forms glowing softly in the chamber's lights. Council Speaker Vrex, the massive turtle-like alien who led the assembly, looked down at the human with obvious displeasure. Ambassador Donghyuk, Vrex began in his slow, deep voice. You have requested this session to present evidence of alleged war crimes. The Council reminds you that military actions between sovereign empires are not subject to our jurisdiction. Donghyuk smiled politely. Thank you, Speaker Vrex. However, I'm not here to discuss military actions between empires. I'm here to present evidence of systematic genocide committed by the Karvak Empire against dozens of peaceful species. A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the chamber. Many species had suspected the Karvak of aggressive expansion, but genocide was a different matter entirely. Furthermore, Donghyuk continued, I'm here to announce a new doctrine of the Terran Federation regarding the protection of innocent species throughout the galaxy. Vrex's eyes dimmed with concern. Ambassador, the Council does not recognize any single species' right to establish galactic policy. Speaker Vrex, with respect, we're not asking for your recognition. We're informing you of our intentions, the SAO. Chamber erupted in shocked voices. Never before had any species openly defied the Council's authority. Donghyuk waited calmly for the noise to die down, then activated the holographic display system. Let me show you what we found on Lumina Prime. The first image appeared above the chamber, a Karvak document with universal translation subtitles. It detailed plans for the complete extermination of the Volani species and the harvesting of their crystal technology. This is from the personal files of Fleet Admiral Vorthak, Dongyuk explained. It outlines what the Karvak called Resource Recovery Operation 77 Alpha. The goal was not conquest, but genocide. More documents appeared. Orders to kill all prisoners, reports on biological experiments, and detailed lists of other species marked for extinction. Elder Shimmer stepped forward to the speaking platform. Her voice was soft, but carried clearly throughout the chamber. Honored council members, I am one of fewer than 2 million Villani who survived the Karvak assault. We called for help for 6 days. We sent distress signals to every known species. Only one answered. She turned to look at the human delegation. The humans came not because they hoped to gain something from us. They came because it was right, because they believed that peaceful people should not be murdered for their technology. Representative Kex of the Altarian Collective stood up. This is all very tragic, but what precedent does this set? If humans can intervene anywhere they choose claiming moral authority, how is that different from the Karvak expansion? Donghyuk turned to face the alien representative. An excellent question. Let me explain the difference. The holographic display changed to show a map of the galaxy, with human territory highlighted in blue. Human space consists of 47 star systems. We have no interest in expansion or conquest. However, we have established monitoring stations throughout the galaxy to detect distress signals. Monitoring stations? Vrex's voice carried a note of alarm. Automated listening posts. They monitor all communication frequencies for signs of genocide, slavery, or attacks on civilian populations. When such signals are detected, the Terran Defense Force responds. Another alien representative, Kex of the Zephyrian Alliance, spoke up. You're establishing yourselves as Galactic Police? Who gave you this authority? No one gave it to us. We took it. Donghyuk's voice became harder. Because no one else would. For 500 years, the Galactic Council has watched aggressive species prey upon peaceful ones. You debate and delay while entire civilizations are destroyed. The chamber erupted again. Several representatives stood to object, but Dongyuk continued speaking over the noise. The Karvak Empire has committed genocide against at least 14 species over the past century. The Grelvak hegemony has enslaved 6 peaceful worlds. The next confederacy has been strip mining inhabited planets for resources. All of this is documented. All of this was known to the Council, and all of it was ignored. Admiral Yuna, who had been standing quietly behind the ambassador, stepped forward. She wore the blue uniform of the Terran Defense Force, and her presence caused several alien representatives to shift nervously. The human fleet now consists of over 8,000 vessels, she announced. We have established permanent patrol, routes throughout the galaxy. Any species that commits acts of genocide, enslaves civilians, or targets innocent populations will face the consequences. And if we refuse to accept this? Challenged Representative Vex of the Saurian Empire. Admiral, Yuna looked directly at him. Then you'll join the Karvak Empire in learning what happens when you threaten the innocent. The threat was clear, and the chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what had happened to the Karvak Third Fleet. 2,000 ships destroyed in less than 4 hours by human forces. Speaker Vrex attempted to regain control of the session. The Council cannot accept this unilateral declaration of authority. We demand that humanity submit to galactic law. Donghyuk smiled again, but this time, there was no warmth in it. Speaker Vrex, let me clarify something. We're not subject to galactic law because we never agreed to be bound by it. Earth was never officially admitted to the Galactic Council. We attended these sessions as observers, not members. But tradition is what allowed the Karvak to commit genocide while you debated. Tradition is what kept you from helping the Villani when they called for aid. We're not interested in your traditions. From across the chamber, Representative Fex of the Centaurian Republic stood up. What if peaceful species support your actions? What if we want your protection? Then you'll have it, Admiral Yuna replied immediately. Any species that request protection from the Terran Defense Force will receive it. Any species that signs a mutual defense agreement with humanity will be defended as if they were human colonies. And the cost? Asked Representative Hex of the Meridian Alliance. There is no cost. We ask for nothing except that you remain peaceful and respect the rights of other species. The implications were staggering. Humanity was offering military protection to any species that wanted it, asking nothing in return except adherence to basic moral principles. Elder Shimmer spoke again. The humans have already begun helping us rebuild our world. They share their technology freely. They ask for no tribute, no territory, no special privileges. They simply want to help. Representative Kex looked confused. But why? What do humans gain from this? Donghyuk considered the question carefully. We gain the knowledge that innocent people are safe. We gain allies who share our values. And we gain a galaxy where our children can grow up without fear of being murdered for resources. You're naive, scoffed Representative Vex. Power corrupts all species eventually. You'll become like the Karvak in time. Perhaps, Donghyuk acknowledged. But if we do, then other species will rise to stop us. That's how it should work. The strong protecting the weak, not preying upon them. Admiral Yuna stepped forward again. The Karvak Empire has formally surrendered, their remaining fleets have been disbanded, and their leadership is facing trial for war crimes. Their former territories are being administered by local governments under human protection. What about species that oppose your new policy? Asked Speaker Vrex. They're free to do so, Donghyuk replied. But if they commit acts of genocide or attack innocent civilians, they'll face the consequences. We're not conquerors, but we are guardians. As the session ended, representatives hurried to contact their home governments. Some species immediately requested mutual defense agreements with humanity. Others began planning how to oppose this new galactic power. But in the quiet corners of space, where peaceful species had lived in fear for centuries, the news brought hope. 6 months later, Admiral Hyon stood on the observation deck of the new Lumina Prime defense station. Below him, the planet glowed with renewed life. Villani cities had been rebuilt, their crystal spires reaching toward the stars once again. Admiral? Commander, Ji-Won approached with a datapad. We've received formal requests for protection from 47 species this month. The Council is calling it the Human Exodus, species leaving the Council to join our protection network. Hyon smiled. And our response? All requests approved. Fleet Admiral Min-Su is deploying additional patrol groups to cover the new territories. Good. Any word from the Karvak remnants? Intelligence suggests they're trying to rebuild in the Outer Rim, but their recruiting efforts have failed. Most former Karvak worlds want nothing to do with their old government. Hyon nodded. The galaxy was changing, slowly but steadily. Species that had never dared oppose aggressive neighbors were finding courage under human protection. The age of unchecked expansion and